Why is it that we so quickly believe in the mind? The mind, which if you observe, you will notice it is saying countless things. It always has something to say about what's happening, about what already has happened. And based on that information, it always has a projection about what will happen. It's always saying many ridiculous things about what you experience, about who comes into your experience. It even says many ridiculous things about yourself. It constantly attacks others. It constantly judges and criticizes others. It constantly judges and criticizes your experiences, your circumstances. It says this should not be or this should be here. It even criticizes and judges your very own self. It attacks its own self. Think about this for a moment. How crazy it is that the mind criticizes and judges its own self, the entire self-image. And this is perhaps one of the biggest issues that makes us suffer, this constant internal battle that we feel. We always feel like there's something brewing up inside, some discomfort that's just holding us back from being the way that we want to be, being ourselves, right? When you're being yourself, you're not thinking about how to be. It's just your natural, effortless, free expression. Your uniqueness on display. But it is our judgments and criticizing nature of our own mind towards our own self, based on societal conditioning and all that stuff and how we should be and whatnot, to be loved and be accepted. And this creates a constant judgment of self, constant criticization, where we attack our own self-image and feel bad about it and have it affect our lives and our behavior and our actions and further thinking. So with all this said, right, how crazy it is to continue to believe in everything that the mind says. For sure, obviously the mind is necessary for the day-to-day tasks, to solve certain problems and do certain things throughout the day. But the rest of our day, when it is not required for us to constantly think about future and past, about what's to come, about who we are, about others, during that time, the mind is just idly working, throwing up all sorts of things. And because we are not awake to what the mind is saying, we are not awake to our own self prior to the mind, because we are not conscious, we unconsciously identify with whatever the mind is currently saying, doing, projecting. Here is where the suffering arises. And this is where we have to tackle this issue. We have to become aware, awake to the mind. Rather than battling mind with mind, rather than trying to stop the mind, we have to become awake to the mind's spontaneity, to how it's just working spontaneously, without our meddling and making it happen, without our choosing of what it's thinking. It's just throwing up all sorts of things, sometimes useful, sometimes completely dysfunctional. Because with this awakeness, with this alertness, with this awareness of mind, now you gain choice. You gain freedom from the dysfunction. You gain the ability to not believe in what the mind is saying. Previously, it's just unconscious association, identification, attachment, and you feel very subject to, contracted into, limited by whatever the mind is believing and saying. And this influences your relationships, this influences the amount of money you make, this influences how you live your day-to-day life. Everything, every aspect of your personal existence is dominated by what you believe in, what you are thinking. But now you gain a certain sense of choice, a certain sense of being able to disengage, discard, throw away. You gain the ability to transcend your own limited belief systems, ideologies, your own limited self-image. and you gain the freedom to feel more authentic, be more authentic, act more authentic. This gap between you and the intellectual activity, this capacity to be aware of the mind rather than just unconsciously thinking, this gap determines if you are going to suffer or if you are going to move through life joyfully, happily. If you are going to be able to choose happiness, or if you will just unconsciously go with the ups and downs. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're sad. One is very unstable and one is stable, conscious. So there you have your choice. Once you become aware of this, as we're talking about it now you have the choice to really start to be aware of your mind, start to observe how dysfunctional it is, and understand that you have the capacity to not believe in everything that the mind says. This is the work of meditation. This is the work of acceptance. This is the work of self-inquiry, as we talk here on the channel. So please, right now we're just talking about it in the grand scheme of things, but down to the very practice and how to implement this, watch the other videos on this channel, and I'll be sure to link some at the end screen of this video, because this is the difference between suffering and not suffering. This is the difference between bondage and freedom. Now, I'll link some free resources down below also. And if you need help with this, if you want me to guide you through this process, learn more about my School of Awakening, in which I help you dissolve mind identification and become free from suffering within 60 days. I'll also link that down below. The power is within you. You have to turn within rather than constantly just giving into the battle. Best of luck.